Hello, my name is Val Mayorit and I am actually a judge at the Royal Adelaide Show, and I also am a cake judge in country shows, as well as I am a convener for the Tanunda Show as well. And I really want to encourage you to enter into shows. Is to be a whole lot of fun. I have seen many very good country shows, women, men and children. I have seen some of the best cooking, even better than what I've seen in the Adelaide Show. And I believe some of our country show people and our country girls who cooks and their children and their menfolk are doing a magnificent job. And I can't encourage people enough to get involved with country shows. But I want to give you some tips. Just before Christmas, I got myself an oven, and yesterday for the first time I used it. Well, I had a couple of disasters because I didn't know my oven. But for anybody who wants to cook or bake or do something, really get to know your ovens and get to know how they work. Now, I'm going to give you some tips. Every good chef will only ever use unsalted butter in all their cooking. They never use butter with salt because the butter with the salt in it is too salty for cakes, for biscuits and for other things. If you go into some old-fashioned books, they always say add a pinch of salt because that's what gives the flavour. But a lot of the salted butter has far too much salt in it and it doesn't do your cakes any favours. Unsalted butter actually does a better job on your biscuits, on your cakes and everything that you make. Very interesting. And when you are using cake tins, make sure you line them properly. Because if you don't line them properly, you're going to get creases in your cakes and that will work against you. Now, there are a lot of categories that say, if it's muffins, don't use patty pans. Now, I have used patty pans because I was too lazy yesterday to grease my tins. So I have used patty pans. But patty pans is something that when you're using a patty pan, this is not a patty pan. I've used big, they're too big for a patty pan. A patty pan is a lot smaller than that. But because I didn't have any in the cupboard, I decided to use my big ones. Okay, what are one of the tricks you can learn? I have on here this most beautiful cake. But what happened to this cake? It came out of the oven and the wonderful lady that cooked it says, oh no, there's a crack in the top. And this is what you do. You get a tea towel and you wet it, wring it out till it's absolutely damp. If you put a damp tea towel over a hot cake when it comes out of the oven and cover it, leave it sit there for a while, that crack will start to come back together. So before you ice it, people are going to get shocked. How come you've made such a fantastic cake and you had a big crack in it? Easy way to fix it. Now, as I've said, entering into the show, it's got to become a whole lot of fun and it's not to be hard work. Now, not every cake that you make is going to be square or it's going to be round. You've got to read your show book very carefully. Some specify you've got to have a square cake. Some say you've got to have a round cake. And others don't specify what you've got to have. Now, in here, this is one chocolate cake mixture. Now, I chose to make what we call the boiled chocolate cake. It doesn't matter what chocolate cake you use, but I have put one boiled cake, but I've made 3 cakes out of it. So that means show week, when you're going to cook a nice cake, you can make 3 instead of 1. So you can cut up the one that you think doesn't look the best, and guess who's going to eat the rest? The best one gets kept for show day. So you've already tested out your cakes before they go to the show and you're going to know how good they are. All right. Now, when the show book says you've got to have muffins, but as you can see on mine, you're not allowed to use paper. Now, if you're not allowed to use paper on your muffins, what you do is a lot of people will use coconut oil. Other people will melt Kofa and get a soft cloth. And what you do on every muffin container, very carefully grease your muffin container with Kofa. Some people prefer to use coconut oil. I still like using Kofa because it's a slightly bit heavier and your cakes just fall out. You don't have to pull them out, don't have to drag them out, they just fall out. And that's a very, very good way of doing it. Now, when you are making muffins is totally different to making a beautiful cake because they're two different textures, two different mixtures. So we don't have to be confused that we have to have the same mixture for a cake and the same mixture for muffins. They're two different things. And it's the same if you're making sausage rolls or pasties. The flavours, every pasty and every sausage roll is judged by the flavour inside the sausage roll, by the flavour inside the pasty. And the only time you'll lose points in a pasty is if this beautiful looking pasty and they only put half the amount of mixture in the pasty and all the rest of the pasty is fresh air up the top. Doesn't get too far. So if you're going to make pasties, fill them up properly, make them nice and tight, and you'll have an excellent job. Now, a very good place to start when you're baking or cooking, get fresh ingredients. Now, a lot of people will go for the most expensive flours you can get, and that's fine. But I want to tell you something. You get fresh, home brand flour will do just as good a job, if not better, as White Wings or the other expensive brands. Because the trouble is, some of the expensive brands of flour are much more expensive. They're too long on the shelf, and you buy a home brand and you can actually get a better job. Isn't that interesting? Very interesting. The other thing is, when a judge wants to judge cupcakes, they don't judge the icing. They don't judge the decorations. That is only there for show. I didn't overly decorate my cupcakes. I just put a little bit of icing on the top. And the same goes for all cakes. A cake is only judged by what the mixture is made of, not by the decorations. So to decorate up a cupcake, to decorate up your muffins, to decorate is lovely. It's really, really nice, but your cake is judged on the cake. At the last Adelaide show, there were these girls had made these most fantastic cupcakes, all these crazy decorations. Decorations look good, but when you went to sample the cake, they were horrible. And I really felt sorry for the girls because they did a brilliant job on their decorations, but they failed to get the correct texture for their cupcakes. Now, when it comes to show judging, everyone's creative, but we're all creative in different ways. We're not all creative the same. So I always encourage people, if you're creative, put your creative thinking to the test. Often when I'm doing cooking, a lot of people, I'll put all my log cakes, small cakes on covered cardboard or covered boards. Some people might put some vine leaves on there or some leaves from the garden on there and they'll put their cake on top. It looks pretty, but it just gives something that's quite plain and ordinary, quite a bit of class, and looks really, really fantastic. Now, when you're using ingredients, as I said, use unsalted butter. Get some fresh flour. Sugar doesn't change, it remains the same. And you cannot beat using prime ingredients for all of your cooking. Now, the people in this valley are brilliant cooks. And when I compare the cooks in the valley and I compare the cooks to the cooks in the city, I have seen better work done in our country shows than what I've seen in Adelaide. But that's one thing, just to talk about all the basics in cooking. You know, appearance is good, your use of ingredients and all that type of thing is really, really, really good. But the bottom line is, it comes in the taste testing. I think we need to cut some of these cakes to see what you think of what they're like. Now, as I said, in here are 3 chocolate cakes. I'm going to take one out. There's chocolate icing on them. Now, when a judge cuts a cake, they don't cut it straight. They always cut it at an angle. Right? Then they will pull it up to see what the inside looks like. Okay? Now, this one here, it's been in the fridge, so it's a little bit more firmer today. It's got a few little holes in it. Somebody else might have a chocolate cake that's got no holes in it. Now, when a cake like this is presented after it's been judged, they will put one cake. This is why boards are brilliant. Then they'll get the other piece of cake and they will stand it up like that. That when they're in the case, people can actually see what they look like. But before anything, what a judge will do, it will take the knife and it will cut out a V. This will happen to every cake. That's a thing that the judge will taste to see if that cake, and to see how it tastes and see how good it is. Now, that tastes like a boiled chocolate cake. But any chocolate cake you may have can be just as good, if not better. So, for a chocolate cake, yeah, not too bad. As I said, I'm just learning to use my new oven. So I am learning what has to be done. I'm going to put that one there. Put this one along the side of it that you can see. Right. I'm going to talk about small cakes. If I was presenting small cakes at the show, some shows these are far too big, and I know that. I would present them on a tray. They look good. If you've got some petals from the garden, you want put a couple leaves on or a couple petals on, how nice is that? That is really something very, very special to do. And what we do with a cupcake, you think, oh, my fancy decorations, do exactly the same. We cut it through. Oh, that's not too bad. Nicely brown at the bottom. It's browned on top. But as you can see, I have got extra mixture around here. I'll tell you what did that. Instead of having the cups half to 3/4 full, they were a bit too full. So when you're putting cake mixture into your patty pans, only get them no more, maximum 3/4 full. And if you do it that way, you will not get this lip because of that. If I saw that at the show, and as good as what the cake is, it probably wouldn't get a place because I overfilled them. So I had made the biggest blunder ever by overfilling my cupcake pan. So don't do that. Right, now the next thing to do is exactly the same as the chocolate cake. What we do, we cut a piece out and we're going to taste that. We don't eat the icing. Now that tastes like a vanilla cupcake. And that's all it was supposed to be. There is nothing wrong with it. Now that is your vanilla cupcake. How cute is that? Right, that's done. Now, this lovely cake. These are the things that you've got to watch. A very good cake, but when you don't fold your paper neatly into the tin. That's why this happens. So if I am going to put a cake in a cake tin, I will put my tin on the paper, cut it out, and I will actually put V's in here. And I learned to fold the paper in, that the paper is exactly the same size as the tin. And you never get a crease and you never get anything else. But this cake actually looks too jolly good just to leave sit there. So let's have a look at it. You're supposed to cut them like this, which I will do. Oh man, that smells good. Look at that. That one looks good. But now, it's got a few holes in it. Now, sometimes the holes come, and that's to do with mixing. Always be careful that you can really mix your cake well. If there are too many holes in it, it can work against you. The secret for this is to get your mixture nice and smooth and creamy before it goes into the tin. But that smells fantastic, absolutely fantastic. But got to give it the taste test. Yummo. The flavour of that banana cake is absolutely brilliant. Right, what else do I need to judge? Okay. This is a heart-shaped nut loaf. Not many people make nut loaves. This one was not baked, it was boiled. So years ago, what they used to do, they used to get old soup tins, probably about 3 soup tins, and they used to make up a mixture of nut loaf, and they used to put it into 3 soup tins, put a cover over the tin, and they put it into boiling water, and it cooks it almost better than an oven. So I'm going to cut this one through because it's a heart shape. That's why I want you to see it. I have my heart. See the heart shape? And that's just a different way of making a nut loaf. When I present a nut loaf, it will always go on a tray like that, always. But the trick now is we've got to taste this nut loaf to make sure that it tastes as good as what it looks. So what I do, just a little bit. Oh, yum. Now, most nut loaves do not have sugar in them. This nut loaf has been made with golden syrup. And golden syrup is better for you. It's a good cake. It's absolutely excellent. And that's how a judge would treat your nut loaf. Absolutely beautifully. But it would be on a board, not on a plate. Right, these little suckers. I did these to trick you. Looks like a muffin. It's squishy like a muffin, but let's see what the muffin is really like. So what I want to do, now, inside this muffin is lemon curd. So what I did, I made the muffins. I have a little cutter thing. I just put it down, and it didn't really cut it out deep enough. And I scooped out a bit of extra cake mixture. So then I put lemon curd inside my hole. And after I put the lemon curd inside my hole, that doesn't really come into it, but makes it look good. Oh, I've got the lemon curd. I need a bit of cake with it. Bit of cake. Bit of lemon curd. This to me is one of the nicest muffins I like to eat. It is tasty. It is yummy. Tastes good, is good. And I find that the lemon curd in a muffin is refreshing. But this is just my take on a muffin. But muffins, you can get them made with chocolate. You can get them made with cranberries. You can get them made with fruits. You can have carrot ones, all sorts of muffins. You can have savoury muffins. You can have sweet muffins. Again, watch the recipe in the book, and the book will show you exactly what muffin is, whether it's a savoury one, whether it's a sweet one. If it's a savoury muffin, don't be afraid to use a few strong flavours. If you have everything bland, they taste bland. So learn to put flavour into your savoury muffins. Whether you use sun-dried tomatoes, whether you use some parsley, whether you use bacon, or a mixture of different things that work well together. Get them into your savoury muffins. If the recipe states for a sweet muffin, make sure you get the ingredients that you like in a sweet muffin. And it all works perfectly okay. You don't have to stress over it, don't worry about it. But the best part is, you're usually making about 12 muffins at the time. So, pick your worst one on your tray, chop it up. Oh, that tastes good. You know you've made a good recipe. And so you keep the best ones for the show, and the family will love you that week because they get to eat all the leftovers. Show week is the most exciting time in the house of a family because everybody gets to eat the leftovers, and there are so many leftovers during show week, the family thinks you're the best thing since sliced bread. So show week is fun. And every time I put a lot of entries into the show, I have people knocking on the door for my leftovers. And I think that's really, really good. I could say a lot more, but you know what? I don't want to confuse you. But you know, showtime is fun time. Enjoy what you're doing. Get your best recipes. Try them. Have a go. And I tell you what, you get some blue ribbons or blue cards alongside your entries. Makes you feel pretty good. I want to thank you for listening to me. I hope I've been of some help to you. So whether it's the Angaston show, Mount Pleasant show, Tanunda show, it doesn't matter where you enter into the shows, have some fun and enjoy what you're doing, because you know what, you Barossa girls, dads and mums and kids, you're good cooks, and I love what you do and I love what you bring to the table. And thank you very much for having me and giving me the opportunity to present some of the things that happened with the show.